episode today with the lovely Cat Santos, and we are going to be talking all things human design, which I am so excited about. So Cat has been diving into the space of human design for about 5 years now, and she says herself she could talk for hours on this topic. So I'm so excited, Cat, today to pick your brain and really just get an understanding what is human design, where it's come from, and how we can start to really live embodied in our human design. Now, if you're thinking, what the hell is human design? Or if you know a lot about human design, you're in the right place. This podcast is really for anyone who really wants to know more and really wants to just dive into this space of learning all about the topic. So before we dive in, I just want to tell you a little bit about Cat before we hear about your story, Cat. But Cat is an incredible artist, incredible dancer, also incredible at reading human design. But she's really dedicated to bringing magic to the world in all of her modalities. So I just love someone who follows their heart and follows their passions and just lets it unfold any way that it's meant to. So with that intro, Cat, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So, well, I'm having an intro opening question, and it's about magic, and it's just, what does magic mean to you, Kat?
Oh gosh, it's such an important question, isn't it? I would say for me, magic would be found in the moments where I witness the beauty of this planet, of the people, and kind of things that are just so kismet. Like, you know, when you watch, I don't know if anyone here watches How I Met Your Mother. I'm obsessed with that show. I am. But you know why? It's because it's how so many little things have to happen and things you wouldn't even imagine, and then how it all just connects, and then they find love. Like, things like that make my heart swoon. How we don't really understand the geometry of this universe. And when you see it play out and click together, those moments for me are just like, wowza, if that's not magic, then I don't know what is.
100%. It's like the butterfly effect. Like right now,
yes,
there is a million other things rippling out from this one moment that are going to play out today, tomorrow, a year's time, 10 years time. We don't know. And I'm so with you. Magic is just all around us. And yeah, it's a big part of this podcast, just bringing magic into our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So I really want to start off, Kat, and just hear a little bit about you and your journey and like how you came into human design.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get asked this question often, like, how did I find human design? I would say it found me, definitely. But I'll start from the beginning. So basically, yeah, I've been a dancer for the majority of my life. I started really like into it when I was 12. My mum put me in when I was 4 years old. I was there for a year and a bit, and then we just couldn't afford to keep me in it. So when I started again when I was 12, my sister met her now husband, who was her boyfriend at the time. He's like, oh, my cousins, they opened up a dance school. I know Kat loves dancing. Does she want to go? And I was like, yes, please. So I went, and then basically, yeah, didn't stop. And then when I was 20, I did a full-time course. And then I just dedicated majority of my 20s to dancing. But before that, before the age of 12, I had all these other passions and desires. I loved drawing. I loved journalism. Actually, I wanted to be, you know, do you remember like the Dear Doctor, like on like Dolly?
Yes.
And or like Girlfriend magazine? Yeah. Or like, Dear Sally, my problems for today. Like, I wanted to be Sally. I wanted to like save everyone and be like, here's how I can save you. Here's what you got to do. So I wanted to be all these things, like a lawyer, a chef, I don't know, all of it. And then obviously fell into dancing, and that's what I pursued. But around the age of 23, I started kind of not questioning dance. It was never a question of dance, but it was, I am putting so much energy. This is all I'm becoming. Who am I if this just gets ripped out of my life one day? And it was unsettling for me to consider that if I took one piece of my identity away, that I wouldn't know who I was. And so that's when I started really diving into, okay, who is Kat? Without all these bells and whistles. And, you know, I started reading more because I stopped reading. Like, I am a bookworm, but when I started dancing, I just had no time. So I was reading again, I was cooking, I was doing all these things. So I was just, allowing myself. And the moment I made that, I put that desire out into the world of wanting to know myself deeper, then naturally, it's like I just magnetized everything. And then, yeah, life unfolded. I got really burnt out in dancing, to be quite honest. And then in order to cope with that pain of burnout, and again, back to who am I started drawing again. So I was sharing that online, my illustrations. I do one line. And then I would draw my friends, and then this person would be like, oh, can you draw me? Can you draw me? And then it just got to a point where I actually had a parent from a dance studio that I taught at. And she's like, oh, could you please draw my daughter for her birthday? I was like, yeah. She's like, I'll pay you. I was like, oh God, no, money for drawing. What? What even is that? Um, and then I did it. Obviously didn't charge her. And then drew like another thing and then another thing. And then next thing I know, I had everyone messaging me saying, Kat, I want you to draw me, draw my face. And it was Christmas time. So I thought, you know what? I'm taking a massive break from dancing. Why not make money from this while I'm doing it? So I started charging, and then that kind of just unfolded as it did as well. But at the same time, to go back, because it's always so hard to explain like life linear, isn't it?
I feel you.
Because so many things, yeah, like they happen on top of each other and because of one. So obviously, yeah, sharing this, I want to share with everyone listening, like nothing ever happens perfectly in a straight line. Like throughout all of this, so many other things are happening where I'm like, oh my God, who am I? But I just know that one day I was on Instagram and the next thing I know, I was on Jenna Zoe's Instagram page. Don't know for the life of me how I got there because no one in my realm was talking about human design. And I wasn't following anyone. I wasn't following Jenna. And her caption at the time, like she didn't have as many followers as she does now. Because this is, yeah, going back 5 years ago, like longer actually, because I didn't really start diving until 5 years ago. But her caption in her bio was, follow me down the rabbit hole. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going down the rabbit hole. So I just clicked on it. And then it was talking about this thing, human design, and this is your body graph. And I was like, what is going on? So I did it because I'm always just curious. So throughout this whole time, obviously, I'm also dabbling in other forms of modalities of, learning about who I am. And I put in my like birth date, birth time, all the information. And when I read out my chart, honestly, I was like, is someone like hacking my computer? Are they Googling me? Like, is this what this actually is? Like, because I'm going to be honest, like initially I was hesitant and a little skeptical because it was too spot on. I was like, someone is following me. And one of the main things that I took off, I'm sure I'll touch on it later as we speak, but one of the main things at the time that it struck a chord in me was that it said, because I'm a generator, and it was like, if it's not a hell yes in your body, then you need to be saying hell no. I should only be doing what is truly lighting me up. And at the time, I was saying so many yeses that internally I was screaming, no, please, no. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm like totally out of alignment according to this modality. So like anything, I'm like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see. Like, I don't believe in anything being dogmatic or anything being this is the be all and end all and it's all you have to do. So I'm like, okay, let's play. Let's see if it works. Awesome. If it doesn't, we'll just move on to the next thing. And it literally changed my life. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then I kind of from there, like illustrations, human design, I've got all these other things kind of flowing around. I got my affirmation cards. I have actually a workshop called my I Am Her project as well. So like everything was like flowing. And then here I am today.
And do you know what it is? Like everything you're doing now is a full fuck yes in your body, which is
100%.
like over these years, you've just really embodied how to live your human design. And like when you're living your human design, the chance of burnout is so much less because you actually fully in alignment with what you came here to do and also who you came here to be, which is so exciting. And
and that's the point.
Yeah. And I totally resonate with that part of your story about when you read your human design, you're like, oh my God, has someone hacked me? Because when I read mine, I was like, oh my God, I feel the most seen that I've ever felt before. And it's like, for me, I'm a projector 3-5. And we can go into what that means a little bit down the track. But projector, it's like, I'm not meant to be working, 10, 12 hours a day, heck, even 8 hours a day. I'm meant to be a little bit more sort of refined in my work hours. And even the sort of, again, we'll dive into it, but like the way that I approach work and be invited to the work, I've always been like pushing all these different things. And a lot shifted for me when I really started to live by my human design. So
I love
with
that.
that said, I would love to dive into what is human design?
Yes, that's the question of all time. Honestly, because that's most people wouldn't even it's so much information that people talk about. Yeah, like I'm a generator, I'm a 5-1, or I'm a projector 3-5, or I'm a reflector 1-4, all these things. And people are like, wait, what? Like, what is human design? And often it's that question alone that because it's so much and it's so big and so vast, if we don't answer that question properly, it's so easy to kind of just be like, oh, well, I'm not actually going to put the effort into it of actually applying it to my life. So here is how I love to explain what human design is. I don't know, have you had a chance actually, before I begin, to watch the movie Everything Everywhere All the Time? It's just been released.
No, but okay, you and your sister both told me about it.
Yeah.
It's on the watch
Okay.
list. Say the name again, just for anyone who's listening.
Yes, it's Everything Everywhere All the Time. So
Okay.
I'll quickly explain it. Basically, this film touches on the importance of every single choice we make, not just the big ones. We put a lot of energy into those. We forget that every single decision we make, whether it's I'm going to go put petrol in my car now or later, or pick up my coffee before I leave or not, how that breaks off into an infinite amount of timelines, of dimensions, of versions of ourselves. And that's what this film covers. It shows how very clearly how many different timelines can exist based on our choices. So, human design is a vehicle, or should I say, it's a tool. It's a modality because it's not a belief system. I want to make that really clear right now. You do not have to believe in anything or anyone besides like yourself, and that you are, an essence experiencing this body, right? In order to believe in human design, put it that way. But human design is a tool, a modality that, think of it like if your body is the vehicle in navigating this earth plane existence, human design is your navman. And it is the navman that is guiding you to your most highest vibration, most free flowing, most efficiently energetic timeline of your existence in this thing we called life, basically. So that's human design. It's when you fill out your human design, you will get what is called a body graph, which is your energetic blueprint. And then based on your energetic blueprint, it's basically saying, here is how you are energetically coded to operate in this dimension, in this earth planet. And you can live your whole life not knowing your human design, and you're still going to live. You're still going to experience pockets of amazingness and pockets of, challenges, or depending on where your, perception's at, whether it's a challenge or suffering, that's where we're always, because that's another thing I want to make clear with human design. Like, you can be living your human design to the best of your ability. You're still going to face challenges. We have to face that. That's the whole point of experiencing pain. I often say, actually, with my sister, we talk about this, we laugh, but I say, if you didn't want to experience pain, you'd be dead.
100%. It's like pain is part of living, and it's how we grow as well, and so many people
Yeah.
averse to pain and challenges, but it's like that literally is what springboards you to your next version of self. And Kat, I really
Yes.
love how you touched on human design sort of being like a loose blueprint of how we can approach life.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, as you said, you can either know about it or not know about it, and you can still be living life. But when we know our human design, it just makes things that little bit easier. Like, we're not going down a stream the wrong direction.
Yes.
Kind of it helps us just become to like flow with life, which I think is really exciting. And I know a lot of people listening to this today, if you haven't heard about human design and you learn about your type, like, just start playing around, as you said, with like these little suggestions on how we can start living our life.
Yeah.
So what I really love when I first learned about human design was the origin, and how this actually was almost like downloaded and like transmuted, and sort of became a thing, and that it isn't something woo, and it's actually really scientific. So if you wouldn't mind just sort of talking to that idea a little bit.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, so the oranges of human design, a gentleman by the name of Ra Uruhu in 1987, he like basically received a massive download from what he called the voice. And for 8 days and 8 nights, he shut himself away. He was in Ibiza at the time. Ibiza, I never know. Like which,
also here for it. Yeah.
let's just say Ibiza. So he was in Ibiza and he locked himself away for 8 days, 8 nights. And this voice explained to him the origins and the geometry and the workings of our universe, and then gave him the human design foundation and method and broke it down for him to completely transmute onto paper, onto this planet. And yeah, that was in 1987. And at the same time that happened, because this was happening in early January, and this is vital, especially for those who really do dive deep into human design, because our body graph is basically generated by the neutrinos that were present when we came through like our birth, like the portal, I guess. So in January the 3rd, 1987, our planet was bombarded. There was a nearby sun from another like cosmos. It exploded, supernova, and our planet was showered with 3 times the amount of neutrinos than normal. And so all this, we were basically bombarded with information. And at the time, science hadn't actually discovered this, but Ra made a prediction saying neutrinos hold information, which is that they hold mass. And at the time in science, we hadn't really developed yet to the point where we believed that. We were saying, no, we have the neutron, the proton, and the electron, and they create the atom, and that's what creates mass. And the neutrino is just empty space. It's nothingness because it's so small. It can pass through matter. And he said, no, it holds information. And it wasn't until, I think it was 1999, like so much later down the track, like what, 13 years, 12 years, that scientists actually discovered, oh, wow, no, neutrinos do hold mass. And so he made this prediction, back then. So yeah, that's the origin of human design.
I love that. And I also feel like I want to just like state, yes, he was in Ibiza, but he wasn't partying. And this is like a full-on. Yeah. I'm picturing people listening being like, oh, he's just come off a bender and he's just like downloaded all this stuff from, spirit. But I think when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like, and I'm woo-woo as shit, as most people will learn to know. And I was like, that for me, just like when it comes from spirit, it's like, yes, okay, this is fully legit. And what's really interesting is like, what was the date? That was what was the date that he?
1987.
1987. And then really only in the past like 5 years has this really become a popular thing. But and you'll see it on Instagram, like there's so many human design businesses popping up, and it's just really credit to the system and credit to like people start living their blueprint and really seeing like a massive impact in their life. So with that all said, I would love if you could dive into like the energy types, the strategies, and maybe the authorities, if we can just touch on that as well. Just to kind of give people like a bird's eye view, and I'm sure we'll do an episode down the track and we can do a bit of a deep dive.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm going to explain the cycle of energy really quickly. Actually, no, I'll start with the types and then I'll explain how it all links, because what I love more than anything with human design, instead of just like, okay, what am I individually, it's actually how we all click into place, because it's when we're all living our human design that we then can truly receive the benefits as individuals. And that's why it's so important. You know how we say, if you want to change the world, change yourself, because it's like, it's legit. Like, that's what you fucking mean. Like it's that straightforward. And so with human design, I'll explain the cycle of it, but I'll start with manifestor energy. Also, another thing to flag, like not a disclaimer, but as humans, we get really caught up on words and what words mean to us. So when we hear manifestor, oh, I'm not a manifestor, oh, so I can't manifest. No. It's just a description of that energy type, like as least as possible. Like, what dad would mean for me would be different from what dad means to someone else, and kind of. So I would advise anyone to like try not to get caught up on like the specifics of the word and more what it's defining.
I want to tell you a quick story on this. So when I first did my like types, I was really into manifesting at the time, and like me and my best friend did it, and like she got manifestor and then I got projector, and I was like literally changing my birth time, like being like, this must be wrong, because I'm like, I'm definitely a manifestor. Like, this is so wrong. And then anyway, when I actually read past the word of projector and actually read what that energy type meant, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it now. And then, as you said, the names don't mean much, but it's really like what's in the sort of like expanded version of that energy type.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. So manifestor energy are people that their main purpose on this planet is to give birth. Basically, they're like rockets. So their energy is explosive and it will create kind of like trailblazer. You know, trailblazers, like that definition of someone, they are trailblazers. Now, that's not to say that someone who's a projector can't be a trailblazer, but it's that the method in which they would do it would be totally different. But you know, for just the basis, manifestors, yeah, they're like the boom, the bang, the rockets, the energy. So they embody what it is to manifest on this planet. They work off of their urges. So they're the type of people that basically our entire world has probably been homogenized to all operate as manifestors, to be like, go out, get it, push it, do it, hustle, baby, And it's like, no, some people are like designed to just sit in bed wearing a robe, eating ice cream. And exactly, like that is what, that they would actually move faster doing that than trying to go out and be like, in the world, you know? So yeah, that's a manifestor energy. So people that wake up in the middle of the night with this like, boom, like I have to do this. I can't explain why. And they don't need to wait for anyone or anything, because their aura, AKA the way we explain it in human design, is their like biofield. Actually, before I go on, I want to just, one of my favorite things in human design is that they call the physical body the bioform, because they say the bioform is a never ever repeated form in the existence of history.
It's almost like a fingerprint, like it's literally unique to you.
And unique, so unique to the point where it's even more rare than your soul.
That's amazing.
Like Shani will never exist ever again, but the essence that is embodying Shani will.
Yeah.
So it's like Shani really is the rarity in this, you know?
That's so cool.
And yet here we are all being like running away from us.
And this probably gives us a tool to really embody and embrace our uniqueness and our authentic self.
Exactly. Yeah, our bioform, we're experiencing like our vehicle, our bioform. So yeah, our biofield is our aura, and all of us have, according to our energy type, a certain type of aura. So the manifestor aura is either it's repellent or magnetic. And so what I mean by that is that I like to call it like a shield. They naturally have this shield that they're always going to attract people that are meant to be in their field and automatically repel those that are not meant to. It'll happen without them even being aware of it. But because of this gift, they can, whenever they have an urge, just go and do. Now, depending on their authority, which I'll get into later, they obviously have to acknowledge that and go, okay, is this a yes? Is this a no in my body? Or did this happen according to like my authority? But if it's a yes, they can go for it. They don't really need to wait for anything else. Like their only sign is their urge. So they're the only energy type.
Is this like an Elon Musk of the world? Like someone who's just like at the forefront of everything and like making decisions, like buy Twitter, do this. Like he feels like that energy.
He definitely feels like, I'd actually love to, I might have to look that up. Maybe we can put it in like the bio. Yeah. Yes, he is a man. But like I would say, like, let's say if Elon Musk was a generator, then my way of understanding what he is or how he's doing it is that he is so lit up by being so forward in science and pushing and moving our world forward in that way. And he's truly just saying yes to the things that are lighting him up. So that's how he would be doing it. But yes, in the very like blanket statement, it's, well, Ra-Uru was a manifestor.
Okay.
Oh no, he was a projector. Oh my God, I need to actually check that.
That's so good.
I'll have to check that. Again, we'll put it in the bio.
Yeah, put it in the show notes.
Yeah, let's put it in the show notes. But yeah, so that's, that manifestor energy is people that will bring forth into the world things that do not exist. It's like something that, it's their calling. Yeah, that's the best way to explain a manifestor.
And I really like, so I think there is like a percentage, obviously it's rough, of like what the manifestors are. I think it was like maybe 10 to 20% of the population. Is that right?
8 to 10%.
8 to 10%. Yep, cool.
Yeah, 8 to 10%. The generators and manifesting generators, they make up the most. They're about like 20 to 30% each,
and these
around
are
that mark. Or
like they're just like, if you almost think of like human design as like a workforce, they're like, they just get in there, they go, they work 8 to 5, and then they go home and they're done.
yes, they're known as like the worker bees, which, if anything, for someone who is a generator or a manifesting generator, I'll start with generator and then I'll go into manifesting generator, because they're similar in aura. So their biofields are the same. However, they operate differently in the geometry of human design. So a generator is someone who their only purpose in this life is to be completely lit up and excited by every single thing that they do. So whenever someone who is a generator is feeling lost, my question would be, what right now would make you so excited to do? And if they're like, it's just to go for a swim, then that is exactly the next thing they have to do. Because when they go for a swim, something's going to happen. It's either someone's going to walk by them, or they're going to receive a phone call and they're going to be in the headspace to pick it up and have, they work in, I'm not going to say in signs, but when they are excited by what they're doing and they're lit up, they become a magnet. So they draw the world to them. So their aura is just a complete magnet. Now, I want you to imagine a light bulb in the middle of the bush. What's attracted to a light bulb? Everything and anything. So that's why generators have to be so strict on what they say yes or no to, because they are attracting both the awesome opportunities, but also the not so awesome opportunities, or the people that might drain them or burn them out. And so because a generator innately knows that they have this drive and battery fuel of energy, they basically could say yes to anything and see it through and have the energy to do it. But they're either going to come out of it still feeling, well, they should. If they're saying yes to the correct things, they'll come out of that experience still energized. If they're saying yes to something that should be a no, they're going to come out of that experience completely drained, which then means when the right opportunity that's going to drive them to that timeline that I was saying at the start, that's the most high vibration, most energetic efficient, they're going to be too drained to say no, which then leads them down another timeline, which is, you know what I mean? Can you see how it all, like, it's like a jigsaw, it all matters. Yeah.
And you can see that when someone, like, for a generator example, starts saying yes to things that feel good for them, they're going to get more and more energy for the things that feel amazing. Just like you, it's like, I'm going to keep following what's my highest excitement, and it's going to lead me to even more magic, which is awesome.
Yes.
So
yes.
okay, manifestor, and then we've had generator and manifesting generator.
So manifesting generator it's a slight difference. So if generators kind of follow what lights them up, and they, that sound like vroom, vroom, like when you like a generator kind of, literally, that's why they chose that word, that kind of way of magnetizing the world to them. Manifesting generators, they cannot live a linear life. Manifesting generators, I would call ping pongers. So that game where you, it's not ping pong, but where you press the, oh God, what do you call it? Like that, those machines. No, is it a ping pong machine?
No, it's pinball.
Pinball. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like ping, 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 and it goes everywhere. Like that's a manifest. Yeah. So that's a manifesting generator. So they're the type of people who will wake up and they're like, okay, today I'm going to go to the beach. And then they'll be at the beach and they're like, oh, you know what? No, I'm going to go clean. And then they get home clean and they're like, oh, but I want to read that book. And then, oh my God, I really want to study like clay. And then they go and do a clay course, and they get halfway through the clay course, like, oh, I'm over it. I'm going to go study this now. They're always ping-ponging, pinballing around in the world. And what is of the most detriment to someone who is a manifesting generator is that we live in a societal structure that says you must wake up, go to school, go to uni, get a job, work yourself up that rank to become the boss, get married, have children, retire, die, right? It's this horrible, outdated linear structure that manifesting generators will completely rebel against, or fracture themselves completely to fit in that box, and then just drain themselves.
Yeah. And you've seen people who are just like, you've seen them in their highest excitement and having so much fun, but then when they get into that rigid structure, they're just so burnt out and they lose that zest. Like you can see it in their eyes.
Yes.
They're just screaming for like spontaneity and fun and excitement.
Yes, and we need like the entire world. I mean it, like all the energy types, manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, they need the generators and the manifesting generators of this planet to be at the height of their joy, because it's like they overspill, their energy spills out, and it gives energy to the projectors, the manifestors, and the reflectors, who are more often than not non-energy types. So projectors and reflectors are definitely non-energy types. Some manifestors can be, but like that rocket thing, like sometimes they have no energy and they need generators to do the things for them, right? So manifesting generators, often my friends they'll always come to me and they're like, oh, Kat, like, I started this course, but now I'm over it. And now I just want to go travel for no reason. And how stupid am I? Like, it makes no sense. And I remind them, makes sense to whom? To the world or to you? Because if it makes sense to you, go fucking do it. Like, doesn't matter what the world is saying. Like, this is your life. It actually goes back to my Navman theory. When we are all operating at our best, it's like we are all sitting in the car, listening to our Navman going down the right path. The reason why our world is often going to shit more often than not is because all of us have turned off the Navman and we're looking at our friends who are going down that road, down that hill, and you're like, oh shit, am I meant to go down that way? Oh fuck, and then we veer off our path and we're like, boom, 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 like down the hill, going over rocks and like, falling around, and then and then we get to their path and we're like, oh shit, this sucks, I hate this. So then we try and get back on our path, but now we're lost and we don't know how to get back there, and we're like, fuck. That is the perfect example of people who are living in complete disalignment.
I feel like as a visual person, I'm literally seeing that unfold in my head.
Yes.
And I just think, and people feeling like maybe I'm not on the right path and I'm not living my alignment. Like, there are a few things you can do to really get your Navman switch back on and on the right path, which I really love. And we'll dive into that in a little bit. So the next one I'm guessing is projector.
Yes. So projectors, that's you. If all the other energy types, this is my favorite analogy. It's a Jenna Zoe analogy, but it's like if manifestors and generators and manifesting generators are like the lions and tigers in the jungle, the beautiful projectors are the birds sitting in the tree, seeing a bird's eye view of everything. So they're seeing everyone like working so hard, like, in the grit of the jungle. And they're like, oh God, if they just really like went to the right just then, they could have totally, instead of going around the lake, there was a little shortcut and they didn't know it. And that's what a projector, that is the gift of a projector. They can see into their other. So their aura acts like a funnel. It literally goes shoom into the other person, and they can see the other people or a situation so clearly and so fundamentally. What happens in that moment, though, is that a projector loses sight of themselves. And so they don't see themselves clearly. And they see everyone, which makes off more often than not projectors, particularly when they're out of alignment, is that they become bitter because they see everyone else, succeeding or doing the things that they want, that they know they'd be better at, right? But they can't see that within themselves because they're too busy seeing into others. And so what happens as well, because of this gift of sight, the beautiful projectors, these birds, they come down onto the ground and they try and tell a lion and a tiger what to do. What happens is the lion, the tiger goes, fuck off, and eats the bird up. So projectors unconsciously want to tell other people what they should do. And so they'll be chatting with a friend and they're like, their friend's like opening up like, oh my God, like this happened to my boyfriend, la, la, la. And a projector would naturally be like, oh my God, babes, here's what you have to do, da, 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 da. And sometimes if they're invited, like if their friend goes, can you please give me some advice? Like, what do you think? Or they've already made, I guess like the invitation, because projectors work off of invitations. And I actually really want to touch on that because I think that's what makes a lot of projectors kind of hate being a projector. They're like, what do you mean I have to wait for an invitation, like a letter under the door? And I'm like, no, it's so not like that. But in this instance, let's say the invitation is their friend, they've always had a connection and they know it's a safe place to say what they think, they can totally open up and say it. But for all projectors, my advice would be whenever you're having like a one-on-one with someone and they're going through a crisis and you know exactly what they should be doing, instead of rushing in and giving them the advice, ask them, would you be open to hearing my perspective?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest lesson for me in my life is I used to be the person that was like literally handing out unsolicited advice left, right, and center. And when people aren't ready to receive it, it doesn't land and they're actually more annoyed than grateful for the help. So really just sitting and just like giving them the space to process what they need to. And then, as you said, asking the question, would you be open to seeing things differently? Or do you want advice on this? And then they're in their right to say, no, I'm not, I don't want advice, or yes, I'm willing for it. And honestly, that's one shift for projectors in friendships and relationships can change a lot. Because like when people aren't ready to receive advice and you give it, it's not a good time. And it's not a lion bird analogy, you might get eaten.
That's it. And then it also, this is how we link to the bitterness aspect of when you're out of alignment as a projector. It's the bitterness feelings come up because you're wasting your energy. You're rushing in to help these people. You're giving them your gift, right? Your gift of sight and clarity, and they're not receiving it. So you're like, well, screw you, like, ouch, like I just gave you all this. And then that's what makes you go, well, stuff it, I'm never going to give anyone my advice, when really your gift is the guidance, it is the advice, but to the right people who are ready to hear it. And then you feel valued, and then when you feel valued, you start to see yourself more clearly, and then you see how that snowballs into a totally different, way of being. So that's the projector. Now, specifically with the invitation, the way that, so actually, let me just quickly go back. Generators and manifesting generators, their like strategy, if the manifestor is, for the urge, the generator and manifesting generator strategy is to wait to respond. So they should feel a response in their gut, which is that feeling of like, oh, I'm excited by this. Like, oh my God, if you are feeling excited and you're responding to the universe and the universe is sending you signs, that's their strategy. The projector strategy is to wait for the invitation. And so again, like I said, it's not waiting for someone to slip, a note under your door, or to wait every time for a friend to text you to go out for lunch. Like, you can totally reach out to your friends, but it's more in like the bigger things. Wait for the invitation of like, oh, hey, Shani, like, have you ever like considered like doing a podcast? Like, I'd love to, one day to do a podcast with you. Like, that's an invitation for you to then go, oh, okay. Or it's, let's say, instead of waiting for the invitation, build a platform that people can meet you on.
That's exactly,
because then people reach out to you.
Yeah. And it's almost like, as a projector, you're not sitting there waiting and twiddling your thumbs being like, when's the invitation going to come? You're out there living your design, sharing your gifts, not in a way that's like pushy, but just literally authentically sharing your gifts. And you're going to find those invitations will come to you because you're sharing them. And I want to just give a little specific example of like how this sort of, so I wanted to start a podcast for about 2 years. And recently my coach said to me, she's like, you have a lot of power in your throat chakra. And I can really see you having a lot of power in your speaking and, the way you're communicating it. And even just that subtleness of that one statement, that was the invitation for me to be like, yes, okay, now it's time to start taking this seriously and really start sharing. So you can see once you're sort of like, it's not a literal invitation. It's like, it could be the most subtlest of things, as someone even saying like, hey, Kat, you're really good at drawing. And then you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to pursue this a little bit more. So I love all of those. And I literally, like, there's so many people that come to mind for each of the different energy types. And so one that's like super elusive to me is the reflector. So that's the last one in like the 5 energy types. So can you dive into what the reflector is?
Yeah, so the reflector, in the literal sense of the word, they reflect and embody the energy types around them. They literally become whoever they're around, whatever energy type. Literally a mirror. Like, if you put a reflector in a group of people that are just like, I don't know, going downhill and completely out of alignment, that reflector is going to become them, but worse. You put a reflector in a group of people that are like motivated and excited and joyous about life, and they're going to become even more so than that. So for reflectors, it is so important for them to be in the right environments and the right communities and to be surrounded by the right people. And like Michael Jackson actually is a reflector. And so it's just interesting to see like the music industry and like how that impacted him and at the time and who was around him. So they are very elusive. They're only 1% of the population. projectors are about 18 to 20% of the population. And not that we've ever tested it, but it's like a rough, it's kind of like you would need this many people in the world for it to operate in the way that we want it to operate. But yeah, reflectors are very much governed by the moon. They need to wait like a whole cycle to become really clear about what it is they want to do, because more often than not, reflectors feel very lost because they don't know who they are, literally, because they don't have there are certain aspects, like they have some of their gates will be activated. They wouldn't have complete channels because their centers are completely open and have to be open. And you only have a channel if your centers are defined. That's, oh God, that's going down another tangent.
I was going to say, we got another episode ahead of us.
You're like, that's another podcast, Cat, stop. But so they have little aspects that they can kind of go, oh, okay, that's me. And it makes them feel anchored. But really the beauty of their life and the reason why they chose to be a reflector in this lifetime was because they wanted to feel the freedom of what is it to go with the flow and to become who I am around. What does that feel like? I could not even imagine what it is to become like something else, because I'm so governed by, and I identify so strongly with that feeling of excitement and my gut screaming yes and no's, and you know the gut going and making those sounds and those sacral sounds. Like I couldn't imagine what it's like to all of a sudden one day and be like, nah, now I have urges, or now I want to rest a lot. Like I couldn't imagine that. So reflectors,
someone as a reflector, like how do they really tap into their authentic self and start to embody that? Because if they're constantly reflecting other people, like how do you really live in alignment as a reflector?
To live in alignment as a reflector is to embrace not being anything and being everything all at once.
Okay. So
allowing yourself to be multifaceted and not judging yourself for not sticking to being one thing. And because again, the world will judge them. The world will go, oh my God, one day you were this and now like, oh, you're such a chameleon. It's like, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. So embracing what it is to flow with life and you know, what is it, where is it you want to be, and allowing who do I want to be around, and actually, here's a better way to say it. Does this community or this environment make me feel like a more true, more beautiful version of myself? And if it does, yes, that's what I want to be. That's what a reflector should really be going down. So basically the reflector biofield, their aura, I like to make these sounds like they sample, like they taste test energies around them. So they'll go and like take and breathe in what's around them, which is so cute.
Like their circle and their community is the most important probably aspect, because it's like you are literally a reflection of the people that you're surrounded with.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the way that, sorry, no, you go.
No, you're right. I was just going to say, so that's like obviously the summary of all of the sort of energy types. And like, I think for the listeners, when they're listening to this, if you don't know your human design, you would have probably start to like resonate with one of these human design types. But for someone who's like, doesn't know their type, where would they go to find their chart and their energy type?
Okay, so what they would need is they would need to know their birth time to the minute. Now, if they can't find it, there are people that are trained in like through like astrology and stuff to find out, you know, when it is that you entered this planet. But I say to the minute because it can shift, like the portal in which you come through, like when your soul enters this material plane, the portal can be open for 10 hours or it can be open for a minute. And in that minute, so much can change. So if you put in 5:30, let's say, you're a manifesting generator with sacral authority and you're a 1-4 profile. Let's say you were actually born at 6, a half hour later, you all of a sudden, you could still be a manifesting generator, but you're actually emotional authority and you're actually a 5-2. And that's completely different advice or tools on how to navigate. It's a totally different nav man, put it that way. And so you could be like believing in human design and like trying and being like, why isn't it working out? And really it's because you had the wrong time. So you would need your birth time. Obviously everyone knows their birth date and birthplace and your name. And you would go to www.mybodygraph.com and you would enter all of that information. I mean, there are other engines as well, but that's for me my favorite. And you go to there and it would bring up your body graph, your blueprint, and it's going to be hella overwhelming.
I was when you say it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, from there, the My Body Graph, the website that I gave, I love it because it brings up not only like audio explanations, but you can like click on things and it explains like this is what a manifester is and blah blah blah, and you can read through it. And that's basically how I started.
Yeah.
I was just like reading. I didn't have a reading. Actually, to this day, I haven't had a reading from someone else. I've done my own. Like I've studied it. I've done my teacher's training course, and I've like basically like trained in all things Jenna Zoe, and then also like listen to other ways and what is my truth in human design and what's my expression and my take on it, because I think that's the most important thing, because it's me sharing this information. So yeah, that's where I would say you can start.
I love that. And honestly, like, and it's just coming back to that thing. It's like, have fun with it. Because I know when I first
Yeah.
found out my human design, I, as you said, went down the rabbit hole so deep. And I think I literally was in like a month-long binge of human design.
Yeah.
I was like watching all the Jenna Zoe stuff and going onto YouTube and finding all about like my energy type as a projector.
Yeah.
And it's just so fascinating. And like, just take a little bit each day or as you need to, and just sit with it and see how it feels for you. Because another point I really want to touch on with you, Kat, is like, yes, it's like you've got your energy type, but like we also don't want to be pigeonholed into this certain thing.
Yes.
So it's like, take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because like you don't want to be trying to fit yourself into this hole. Just a personal example, I'm a projector, but I've got a lot more energy than a normal projector.
Yes.
So all these projectors like, I need a million naps a day and like I gotta sleep
Mm-hmm.
and like, totally get that. That's me sometimes, but like I've got a lot more energy, and it's like that's sort of my uniqueness to my type.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like I can't stress enough. Like I love that you've made that point, because I think that's what's, like you said earlier, human design has become really popular now. There's so many human design businesses out there, and that's lovely, because we need like, the first doctor to ever exist. You never looked at it and went, oh, we've already got one doctor, we won't need another one. Like we need as many people sharing this information as possible, because it is so, especially now with the way that consciousness is developing, and how we're all resonating and vibrating at the moment. We're ready for this information. We're needing of this information to move forward in life. And so I think it's necessary that there's so many out there, but be aware and stay away from any account that says this is the be all and end all for you. Anything that's dogmatic, just run and go in the other opposite direction, because human design, it's a tool. It's like, you wouldn't look at a fork and go, I am a fork, and now I have to eat everything with a fork and only a fork because I am a fork. And no. Sometimes you want to use a spoon or chopsticks or your hands. Like, it's allow it to influence you and use it when it's needed. But fuck me, at the end of the day, we need to practice more like unattachment from all these things. Otherwise, we just keep, I guess, like bypassing the reality of what it is to be us in our fullness,
And it's
and
like,
to be everything.
it's like astrology. Like some people like, I'm a Sag, I don't do this. Okay. And it's like, we got to stop, as you said, bypassing something just because we are a projector or a, manifester. So it's like, use it how we see fit, but don't let like certain things slide.
Yes.
So I think like we've obviously done this beautiful in-depth, like dive into all the energy types, but maybe if we just do some like quick sort of takeaways for each of the energy types about how they could start sort of like maybe living more authentically, or just any tips you have for each of those ones.
Oh, yes, definitely. Okay, well, an overall tip for everyone would obviously be, when it comes to decision making, just finding out what your authority is, which is the part of your body that governs your decision making, and listening to that. The three most common, I would say most people would be one of these three, which is your either sacral authority, emotional authority, or your splenic authority. So just really quickly, for your sacral authority, I would say everything is the gut. Play yes and no games. There shouldn't be any gray in your life. So I would say get people, like whether it's your housemates or your partner or family, to throw like rapid fire questions where the only answer can be yes or no. So it's like, do you want to go to the beach? Yes or no? Yes or no? Like, and then you answer like not with a yes or no, but like or allowing your sacral to respond for you. And you'll be surprised with what comes out. You'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even realize, like I felt that way about that thing. So that would be sacral authority. Everything black and white, yes or no. Don't ask yourself any gray questions. If you are emotional authority, my advice would be to allow yourself 24 to 48 hours before you make any decision, because you're always going to be feeling both ways. One minute you're going to be like, oh, I could totally see why it's great. And the next minute you're like, oh my God, no, it's going to be horrible. And then you're always going to be riding that wave. It's a constant. It's like, yeah, it's like, again, another amazing Jenna Zoe metaphor is like God is a DJ. Some days it's playing like a real bluesy track where it's like la, la, la. And then the next day it's like, it's like real vibey. And you'll wake up being like, yes, life is amazing. And then the next day, not so much. So allowing yourself to go through that wave and preparing yourself with, particularly if you get a lot of emails with work, if you have the freedom to do so, creating like a little, what do you call it? Like
out of office sort of thing.
Yeah, like an out of office or like a copy and paste of, hey, thank you for your email. This sounds amazing. How quickly do you need a response? Could you give me 24 to 48 hours? Or even with your friends, like saying, hey, I got this party. Like, do you want to come? Be like, hey, how soon do you need me to let you know? Because if I'm going to give you a yes today, I'm feeling real bluesy today and it's probably going to be a no, but I might not feel bluesy tomorrow and I might want to say yes. So if you could give me time, I might have more of an understanding of where I'm at.
And I
think what I mean? So
communicating that timeline is so powerful. So for me, I am an emotional.
Yes.
Is that what it is? And so
emotional authority.
Authority. Sorry. So I actually need to sit with decisions, and I'm not meant to be like that super like snappy response. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me like sleep on this, or can I get back to you tomorrow? Like just communicating that allows you the space, and you're not under the pressure to make like a rush decision. So that's so important.
Especially if you've been like forced to be this yes person your whole life. You know, this would be life-changing. Just being like, wait, what do you mean I don't have to answer yes straight away? Especially now, bloody hell, like we go to sleep, our phones are on our bedside table, people message you at 9 p.m. Hey, can you be free for da-da? Like we're never off really anymore. So for anyone who is emotional authority, it's like, oh my God, setting those boundaries is like of the utmost importance. Yeah, life changing. And then splenic authority are people who are governed by their intuition. Again, it doesn't mean that someone who's emotional authority doesn't have intuition. You will have intuition. You will listen to your intuition, but it's almost like, you know, your intuition will come to the party, your gut feeling will come to the party, but if you're emotional authority, you still got to wait those 24 to 48 hours. That's like the captain. That's the one that like runs the ship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So splenic authority, intuition runs the ship. And so it's like, every 10 minutes or every hour, you're going to have this like drop in of a knowing that you're like, I cannot explain why. I just know that this is how I feel about it. And so trusting that intuition. So for those who are splenic authority, my advice would be to start writing down in your notes in your phone whenever you have like an instant knowing of, nah, I shouldn't go to that. Because your mind will talk you out of it. Your mind will go, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would I not want to go? Like, that doesn't make sense. I should be doing that, because the mind loves to hijack us because it is, you know, ego based. Whereas the intuition is not. The intuition is so separate. It is soul based. It is a knowing. It is also intuition, because the spleen in human design, that center, it's all about how to survive on the material plane. So it's basically saying, it's kind of like when you think of the primal days of like, don't go down there, there's a lion. You know, like run or hide or yes, no, like it's that kind of like instinct.
Yeah.
Yes, it's life or death. And that's why it is every 10 minutes or so and always changing, because life or death was always changing back in, you know, prehistoric times, depending on the weather, or it was so quick. Now we're way more comfy. We got agriculture, we're chilling. So we have like this freedom to like lay back and not be so on edge, but that intuition is still on edge. It still is living in that life or death kind of moment. And so my advice would be to make that intuitive voice stronger, because it will like start as a whisper, especially if you've been living from your mind and you've been forced to make really logical decisions all your life, right? Actually, you should be really working way more intuitively and not having to explain it to fucking anyone again but yourself. Like, what is right for you? And again, if you've been, you know, conditioned to have to explain your choices to everyone, life changing to not have to do that and just go, this is it. I'm just trying this out. And if people are judging, you'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm just, haha, so funny. I'm just going to try it out for a week, see how I go. And if your life changes, amazing. Keep doing it. Like, love it. Go for it. Yes.
Give yourself the silence and like those moments to actually drop into that space where you can hear your intuition, because I always laugh, like the ego is the one that's shouting in your mind. And then your intuition is this soft little like voice that's just in the background waiting for like silence to be heard.
I love you.
And your ego's like, damn you, bitch, what are you doing?
Yeah, seriously. It's like, ha.
And for anyone who's listening being like, oh, what the hell, like what's my authority, like that's going to be on your chart when you do it online. So
Yes.
you'll be able to have all that
Yes.
information there. And like just another tip, like get all the keywords from your reading in your chart and just start Googling them, put them into YouTube and just see what comes up, because like there's so much information out there. And
Oh,
I was
so
the same as
much.
you, Kat. I think I dove into like maybe 6 months before I had a reading. And even
Yeah.
like the reading, she really tried to pigeonhole me. And
Yeah.
I was like, I felt a little bit like, oh, I don't want that to be the case. So just take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and that's okay, you know?
Oh, I couldn't stress that enough. I think more than anything, more than the beauty of what human design is, right now, what I think needs to be preached the most, for lack of a better word, is that to not take it so seriously and to pigeonhole yourself, because it's actually, that's not what human design is about.
No, it's
You know
more
what
just
I
like a
mean?
loose structure that you can just start living your best life. And like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
you know, we were talking about magic at the start of this podcast, and it's like human design is the structure for us to tap into our innate magic and our innate wisdom and our innate gifts and start sharing that with the world. Like, that's really like the structure for it and what it's here to do.
That's it.
So
Yes.
I love, like, we've gone through so much, and I feel like there's probably another 2 podcast episodes we could do together to dive into all the things. So maybe we'll leave that. I want to leave that there so the listeners can really dive in and just sit with this information.
Yes.
But for someone who's like wanting to know a little bit more, perhaps wanting to do a reading, like, can you just give us some information about like how they can find you and potentially get a reading with you?
Of course, of course. So my Instagram handle is like at Cat Santos, CATSANTOS. And if you just go into my like link tree, you can click on there and you can go into book a reading with Cat. But let's say financially right now, you know, you're not in the means to do that, which I totally get. That doesn't mean you can't dive into this. And so I would say start following like all these accounts that talk about it. So my obviously Jenna Zoe is just my absolute
Yeah.
favorite, because I think she approaches it from the least dogmatic place, and from, you know, just be free, be who you are, not like, oh, if you have this channel then this is all you have to do, and da, 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 da. You know, she's not like that at all. So I really respect that, admire that about her. She also has an app. It's called My Human Design. Also, I'm not like I'm not affiliated with Jenna Zoe. Like, I don't make any money, just so everyone knows. I just like really love to share people that I'm like, you're legit. I'm about it. Like,
And her
yes,
page
more
is
of
like,
that.
it's free on Instagram and there's so much information, and she's constantly bringing out new stuff. So that's
Yeah.
like an amazing place to start. And also you can literally
Yes.
just type into Instagram human design and like all these pages will come up. You will just see how much information is out there.
Yes.
But yeah, if guys, if you do want to book a reading, definitely get one with Kat. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to thank you for your time and your wisdom and just
Thank
sharing
you.
your magic with us, Kat. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.